On this week's episode of Amari Purple Talk, more on the Sign of the Times Record Store Day release. Will a shakeup in the Prince estate affect future releases? The Purple Spotlight, Bite the Boots, and more. Amari Purple Talk starts now. Welcome to episode 28 of Amari Purple Talk, a Prince podcast where I share my thoughts on the Prince musical singularity. I'm Richard Cole, your imagination funk soloist, and I want to start by thanking everyone that is tuned in. I hope you're enjoying the show. Please leave your comments on the show where comments are displayed. Please continue to download and listen from your favorite podcast platform. And YouTube listeners, please continue to like and subscribe. Feel free to also visit my website, www.amaricommunications.com. You may also click the links in the show notes to follow me on social media and submit topics or questions for use in future episodes and purchase Amari Purple Talk merchandise. And with that out of the way, let's begin. And we're actually going to start with topic number 1, Sign of the Times Record Store Day release. Do we need it? Okay, so there's still some buzz and a little bit of upset and some more rumors surrounding the Record Store Day release of Sign of the Times. Now, Record Store Day will be April 18th this year. You can look up Record Store Day. You can Google search it. It'll pull up the website, all the record stores that are participating, as well as a list of the records that will be available on that day. And for those that are unfamiliar with Record Store Day, it's a day that certain, I guess you could say special releases of certain records, depending on who your favorite artist is. Could be a rare live recording or rare unreleased recording, special reissue of a recording. So what the sort of question regarding this year's, in regards to the Prince community here, is the release of Sign of the Times vinyl. It will be, or as far as we know, it's the 2 LP original vinyl that was possibly reissued in 2015. Now, there's been some rumblings that that particular title has been canceled. I just finished looking on the Record Store Day site, and I don't see any further mention of it other than the advance list that was leaked back on February 3rd. So I'm wondering, is it still a possibility? But I guess the question is, do we need it, or did we ever need it in the first place? Again, there's rumors still circulating that a Sign of the Times Super Deluxe Edition is due to be released in June. Again, there is no official word from Warner Brothers or from the Prince estate regarding that's true. So any rumors at this stage, the proverbial grain of salt, take it with that. But I mean, again, this was, as far as the 2 LP vinyl, this was an album that was reissued in 2015. Until we get a Super Deluxe remastered edition of Sign of the Times, I would say your best listening experience with this is on vinyl. And again, as far as I know, this is something that's still available. You can probably still order it from Amazon. You should be able to still order it from the Prince estate or obtain a copy from your local record store. And even if you're lucky enough to obtain a official album release, or better yet, if you can still find like a cassette release of it. Those are the two best ways to enjoy listening to Sign of the Times as of right now, until there is a super deluxe that will contain a remaster of the original album. So again, that being said, I'll continue to sort of search the Record Store Day website and see if there's any updates. Or then again, even if this is a special Record Store Day release, I'm guessing that this might either be on purple vinyl, or it may be on some kind of peach and black vinyl or all peach vinyl. Who knows? Now, I have the official 2015 reissue of Sign of the Times. I still have that. I also have it on CD. So, again, like I said, if you've listened to previous episodes, I'm excited about having a super deluxe edition of Sign of the Times. Again, preferably, just only slightly, but preferably having something like that come from Sony. However, that's, can't rule that out. That's some years down the line that may still be a possibility, where you'll get a like super box of Sign of the Times that will be a little bit more comprehensive. But if the rumors are true that a super deluxe is coming in June from Warner Brothers, again, refer back to previous episodes where I did the poll of where should Warner Brothers release a super deluxe of Sign of the Times as a swinging for the fences, big last chance money grab until they have to turn over the classic material to Sony, or should they have played it safe and come out with Parade? Now, there's been rumors circulating ever since the Purple Rain Deluxe was released in 2017 that there's a Parade Deluxe set that's available. So, rumor has it that is once again being put on the back burner in favor of putting out the Super Deluxe for Sign of the Times. So again, no official word from the estate, no official word from Warner Brothers as to any of this. Again, like I said, I'll monitor the Record Store Day website for the 2LP vinyl, and hopefully there's also people that are in the know. Definitely check out the Violet Reality. They are pretty good at breaking exclusives, so keep an ear out for them. Keep an ear out for other sources within the Prince musical singularity, and we'll kind of get that advance word, and you'll get my reaction here, and then when the official word drops, you'll get my reaction for that as well. So what's most important is, what do you think? Would you like Sign of the Times, if you don't have it on vinyl, having that released on Record Store Day? Again, it's probably the best way to listen to that album as of 2020 right now. So are you excited for that? Do you think that it will be like a special color vinyl, whether it's purple vinyl or peach vinyl or some kind of peach and black swirl vinyl? Let me know your comments. Leave me your thoughts. And we're going to end this topic, and we're going to move on to our other topic. And our other topic is, will shakeups within the Prince estate affect future releases? So when it comes to things that are going on with the estate, here on Amari Purple Talk, I've tried my best to kind of stay out of that. Also, to staying out of any, conspiracy theories or, speculation in regards to that, because it's really too heavy of a topic for me, And also to some of our listeners of Amari Purple Talk, even people that aren't familiar with the show that are Prince fans, it's 4 years later, and it's still a little difficult. So, and you know to try to go into all that in-depth investigation takes a lot of time, a lot of research, and like I said, I try to just stay out of it. But this particular, what's been going on this past week, as you know, around, I can't remember the exact date, but the past year, Alfred Jackson, who is one of Prince's half brothers, passed away. And in regards to the estate, so the courts had decided that the 6 brothers and sisters of Prince's family, those are the designated heirs to the Prince estate. So what's been going on in the wake of Alfred Jackson's passing is that family members are contesting, I guess, his will or any decisions or business decisions that were made prior to his death in regards to the Prince estate. So it's one of those situations where, I guess, apparently, allegedly, there is a will, and within that will, there's some things that the family members are contesting in regards to certain business decisions that were made. And from things that I've read thus far, it sounds as if Alfred Jackson made a similar deal as Prince's sister, Tyka Nelson, who made a deal with a branding or music branding / publishing company that they're really good at administering musical publishing rights, songwriting rights, and as far as branding, as far as this, this new age that we're in regards to the internet and YouTube and, getting placement into books and films and things of that nature. Now, like I said, why this is so heavy and why I've, chosen to avoid it, because there's so many nooks and crannies. And at the end of the day, it's their decision. Now, from all of us kind of on the outside looking in, there's from what it looks like, it's that they are sort of divided on some things. Now, I guess when it comes to the things that we've been getting thus far, like originals or, the Sony reissues or the 1999 Super Deluxe. So I guess there's obviously a unanimous agreement in regards to those things. But, you have 6 different personalities, 6 different opinions, and you probably have half wanting one thing in regards to how to carry this forth for the future, and the other half sort of trying to figure it all out as well. So when it was the issue with Tyka Nelson, and now keep in mind, Tyka Nelson and Alfred Jackson did not sell off their complete share within the Prince estate. They have only sold off a portion. And I guess where the courts have to decide, or since they also have the bank as sort of a trust, or an advisory board on behalf of the state, the thing with these outside entities is the courts deciding, or the bank deciding, or whoever has a controlling vote or say so, recognizing these two entities. Now, the judges have already decided that the six brothers and sisters are the sole heirs. So all decision-making processes begin and end with those six individuals. So therefore, it's going to be very challenging for a court to recognize these sort of outside music entertainment entities as a means of contributing to a controlling vote. So again, that, if you have one person doing it out of six, but now there's two, and again, with Alfred Jackson, his family is contesting that. So apparently they don't seem to be in agreement with those business decisions. And again, now you have two outside music entertainment industries that have sort of, in their own little ways, have managed to infiltrate their way into the goings on within the Prince estate. And this is something that I'm sure not only Prince fans, but music fans in general, and we've seen this time and time again with, I would say, just about every single entertainer that we, enjoy, except for a chosen few, because there's bickering, within the James Brown estate. There's bickering within the Ray Charles estate. There were, as far as I know, there's still a division within Frank Zappa's family. I know with Tom Petty's family, there was a division, but they've managed to reconcile. And so now, as far as Tom Petty's catalog, as far as special releases or reissues or deluxe editions, those can now go forward because the heirs to that estate put their differences aside and decided to get on the same page and move forward. So, like I said, we've seen this over and over and over, and it begs the question, how will this affect things down the line? It may not be anything immediate, because normally by the time we hear, say for instance, the recent news of the Rainbow Children One Night Alone releases. Now, by the time we got that news last week, they've probably, and I mean they, meaning the estate, meaning Sony, meaning the record retailers, Amazon, whoever, they've had advance word for this probably, if not weeks, for months. And it's already old news to them by the time we hear about it. So it may not affect anything, say, 6 months down the line, may not even affect anything, say, within the next year or 2 or 3. But if this division continues, if these outside entities are even given a fraction, well, which it is going to be a fraction of a say-so within the matters. And granted, the conflict will come because they will only be recognized as sort of an advisory board or advisory firm, say to Tyka Nelson or Alfred Jackson's family. And if the estate or the other members of the estate decide, so for example, okay, we want Sony to, it's 2023, and we want Sony to put out a brand new Around the World in a Day box set, and we're going to have this multimedia campaign for it, and we're going to have a video concert release here, on DVD here, or it's going to be broadcast on PBS or something. And meanwhile, this, the advisory board for, or this entertainment firm for Tyka Nelson steps in and says, well, we've got resources in this area and we can do this on YouTube and we can do this and then we can do an animated cartoon with Prince's hair and let's have him sing, have his hair singing Condition of the Heart. And Tyka goes, hey, that's a great idea. I want to do that. Then, not to say that would happen, and this is just, just off the top of my head scenario, but the point of it being that if there comes a situation where that would hamper the release, and Sony, their job is basically just to manufacture, distribute, get it into the record stores, get it to Amazon so Amazon can get it to us, that type of thing, promote it and do the advertising and that sort of thing, so they don't necessarily, that's basically where their say-so is going to come in. But anything that would conflict with any of these other outside entities could cause some potential problems down the line. And like I said, I know it's a heavy, heavy topic, but it does kind of beg that question, what would happen, like I said, around 2023, 24, 25, and these situations aren't resolved. Now, the best case, I don't know, maybe not best case scenario, but because again, these are 6 individuals, and at the end of the day, they are the 6 heirs to the estate. So it's up to them. As fans, we can be supportive or we can have our own opinions, positive or negative. And at the end of the day, that's all that it is. It's an opinion. Like I said, I try not to tackle these subjects because it is, they are so heavy. But, it's, we're enjoying these reissues and we're enjoying I'm still enjoying my 1999 Super Deluxe Edition. Hopefully we'll get that Sign of the Times Deluxe Edition or the Parade Deluxe Edition. And if I don't get either of those, I will not be mad if I get that Around the World in a Day Special Edition. And two, even though, the estate is adamant about not having a Prince hologram. But remember, here's the thing, I think some of these decisions, because right now the majority of what's coming in is to alleviate the tax debt. It's going to be 10 years or however many years down the line before the heirs can really, really enjoy the benefits of the ownership of master tapes. So for right now, they're doing what I think is probably the most logical and, since probably the release of originals, the best decisions that are being made. And there's still things that are, like I said, we don't know what's going on. There's still, there could be some type of documentary that's finished, that's in the can, and we won't hear about it for another, say, 6 months or something. But my personal opinion is that all 6 family members, future heirs, or whoever has the controlling voice, especially again with Alfred Jackson's family, like I said, if there were some questionable decisions that were made, and if they feel wholeheartedly that that needs to be challenged, then by all means do so. But I would say, yes, do it in the interest of putting that situation and not having that as a distraction for the bigger picture. And I think it's in the absolute best interest that all 6 get on the same page, whether it's wiping the slate clean. Now, keep in mind, it's just me. The estate, as far as I know, they don't know who I am, or nor does it even matter. But again, as far as my personal opinion, as far as the opinion of the host of Amari Purple Talk, then it's apparent that, hey, wipe the slate clean, sit down, get on the same page. If there is a need to enlist, whether it's a consultant or whether it's one of these companies that, like I said, they're on the cutting edge of, intellectual property and how to handle that for the 21st century. Granted, they've already got the bases covered with Sony. That's a done deal. Hopefully it's a lucrative enough deal. Again, right now the main concern, I guess, is alleviating the tax debt, but it's not a bad company to have. I know they're kind of like a big, huge behemoth of a company because they have just about everybody. It's Bob Dylan, it's Jimi Hendrix, it's Duke Ellington. If you go on Sony, and especially if you go on Sony Legacy, their website, and you just look at the roster of artists that they have, and remember too, the Sony ATV catalog. Let's just briefly touch on that for just one moment. Now, Sony has prints, and right now they're just doing the reissues, and I'm really curious as to what they're going to really do once 2021 hits, because they'll have everything, classic Warner Brothers era stuff, minus the movie soundtracks, of course. But I'm interested to see when they have all of the material, both 80s and early 90s, when they have all of that, will those releases be on the caliber of Miles Davis or Bob Dylan? I'm kind of struggling to think. I mean, because there's other, there's Earth, Wind, and Fire. There's Sly and the Family Stone, which those reissues from 2007 were pretty good, and there is a Sly and the Family Stone box set that exists, and they've released a couple of key live performances from them over the years. But like, to have something on the level of a Miles Davis or a Bob Dylan, granted, Sly and the Family Stone only had so many years, but like something like Stand, I think they missed an opportunity of having a 50th anniversary for last year for that, and to have that be on the level of an Abbey Road 50th anniversary or an Electric Ladyland 50th anniversary release of those. But anyway, I'm kind of getting off the main topic, but it'll be very interesting to see what Sony will do in that period of time. But with the Sony ATV publishing catalog, now if you remember, Michael Jackson used to own 50% of Sony ATV. And again, we're not going to get into the various conspiracy theories or things of that nature. I'll just say, there's too many connected dots, and we'll just leave it at that. But think about this for a moment, that when Michael Jackson purchased the ATV catalog, and why ATV was so significant was that they were the publishing company that ended up with the Beatles catalog. Briefly, basically, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, when, just like any young entertainer, you sign on that dotted line, and you kind of get that little cash that you had never had that much cash in your life, but not realizing the bigger picture. basically, in the long run, by 1968, the person that was controlling, or 69, I think, the person that was controlling their publishing sold it off right from under them without them getting a chance to even bid on ownership for themselves. So it ended up in the hands of someone else until, for like 15 some odd years, until Michael Jackson ended up with it. So, but remember, this is Michael just getting into the publishing game based on advice from Paul McCartney anyway. But where this becomes a big monster from 1985 until about the mid 90s, this is Michael Jackson owning that publishing arm, in which, and actually the Beatles end up being, it's the most significant because they're the biggest, but it's a drop in the bucket because of Michael's merger with Sony on a business level. Because between Sony and then what ATV already had, and you can look this up as well because it's too exhaustive to just go down the list, but basically where I'd say Paul McCartney owns just about 80% roughly of America's, and I mean that collective. I'm not talking about just rock music. I'm not talking about just R&B music. I'm talking about whether it's, heck, I have to look it up. But like, say, I'll tell you what, the best example for our hip hop listeners out there, Jay-Z's Hard Knock Life. Now, Hard Knock Life is the sample from the Broadway show Annie. Well, guess when that song was a hit, guess who was also getting a check from that? That's right, Sir Paul McCartney himself was getting a check. So every time you heard a Hard Knock Life, cha-ching, McCartney's getting a check. Now that's kind of more recent because that's like 70s Broadway. But older songs, and you can look it up, his publishing company, it's his publishing company. And that was by the 70s. His in-laws, they're big lawyers, and they advised him to get into publishing, because in the wake of the Beatles almost going broke by 1970, he had these in-laws looking out after him. So just look up MPL Communications or MPL Publishing, and you will see the complete roster of songs that Paul McCartney owns. And basically, like I said, it's basically all of Americana. So any classic songs like White Christmas and things of that nature, Paul McCartney owns that. Buddy Holly, he owns that. Now, Michael Jackson, by the time he merged with Sony, so he brought the Beatles catalog to the table and everything else that ATV had, and then merging with Sony's publishing. And then over the years, they started between the 90s and pretty much to Michael Jackson's passing and beyond, Sony ATV has acquired so much publishing. And again, you can look this up and see how big this is. So where Paul McCartney owns about 80% of, say, the 1930s, 40s, 50s in American music and then some, Sony ATV has everything else, just about. And maybe you've got Universal Music Group kind of like in, sort of a third place. I don't know how you rank the publishing companies, but the bottom line is that after Michael Jackson's passing, basically what Sony did, now this is something that's worth well over $1 billion at this stage. But the Jackson family was paid off with $750 million and the ability to keep the publishing rights to Michael Jackson's own songs. Now, it's unclear, and again, like I said, we're not getting into the conspiracy theories, but something to think about. There was a clause in Michael Jackson's contract during his lifetime that if he were ever to leave Sony within 7 years, his master recordings were to revert back to him. And if you do sort of the math, then you have, stay with me folks, then you have Michael Jackson leaving Sony around what, 2002 or so, 2003 roughly, because you remember those things he was saying about Tommy Mottola as he was leaving Sony and things of that nature, you know. Again, apparently, allegedly, folks, but to not see the bigger picture and to just accept the $750 million payoff, you don't get a lot of, there's not a lot of Michael Jackson stuff that's out, you know, that over, you know, in the, what is that, 11 years, you know, yeah, just like you had the one album that he didn't even really sing on, really. Half of the tracks on that wasn't even his voice. So you had that was rushed out. You had one album that by the time all the producers of the moment, you know, put their spin on it, and it sounded like Michael Jackson recorded it yesterday, which was good, but it's creepy as hell. You know, it's hard to listen to because it's so new. And, you know, if you look at, you know, if you just kind of suspend your brain for a minute, you'd swear like, man, he recorded it yesterday. The Off the Wall reissue was nice, and that was only nice because of the documentary, the Spike Lee documentary that came with it, but it wasn't as far as album wise. It could have expanded on what the previous Off the Wall reissue and even the previous Thriller reissue, and that was kind of like what the early 2000s, I think. I can't remember when those were released, but they had like demos and they had like interviews with Quincy Jones and Rod Temperton and things like that. But to have really gone out of their way, Michael Jackson of all people, you know, I mean, yeah, again, you hear me mention Bob Dylan, Hendrix, like I said, you know, Earth, Wind, Fires was on Columbia Records, Sly and the Family Stone. Everyone has gotten some type of a box set, you know, that mattered, or some type of reissue series or deluxe edition series, and Mike's just left out in the cold. You know, it's like, here's the album. Now granted, like I said, the two Spike Lee documentaries are good. I mean, I'm hoping there's a Thriller one that's coming at some point, but then, you know, is that tied up with, you know, Quincy Jones suing and things like that? So, you know, the Off the Wall reissue was able to kind of get out before Quincy filed his lawsuit. So, you know, I don't know what's going on with that, but I mean, there's other things that Quincy didn't do. You know, we didn't get like a Dangerous deluxe edition. Now, you know, that's something that I would like to see. But if you look at, like I said, why it's imperative to kind of be on that same page and look out for the bigger picture, then Michael Jackson is an example of what happens if you don't sit down and really think about the bigger picture. Because I don't think that, I mean, no matter how much Michael's back would have been against the wall. Now, that being said, I don't believe that he was broke. Now, he might have been bleeding money, and sometimes those things aren't, it's not all cash or, available as cash. There's certain holding companies and business ventures and bank loans and things of that nature. We'll never understand because we don't have millions to billions of dollars. But to kind of guess as to what you would have to deal with on a day-to-day basis and in handling such large sums of money, and then too to have his career impacted, especially the way it had been from 2005 on. It's easy to sit there and say, oh, if you got millions or big or whatever, but companies function because there have to be profits. And then, like I said, if your career is derailed, then there's recording opportunities, there's record sales that were impacted. He wasn't able to tour or anything like that to generate income as well. So that millions, it could dwindle. Like I said, it's not being broke. It's not like going back to Indiana broke. It's, you just got to figure out a way to stop the hemorrhaging or scale down or sell off some assets or whatever it is you have to do until you can get that going again. So, but again, this is a different scenario because number one, there was no will with Prince. So, like I said, and then you have table's moving by itself, folks. Anyway, there's no, with the Jackson family, there was, with the other brothers, at least there's some kind of income. They're kind of sustaining themselves. We don't know what the situation was, if all of them were taking care of Catherine, or was it solely Michael's money that was doing it. But with them, it was a little different because they kind of had a level to be comfortable then. It's just now that this extra, the extra responsibility, in addition to the grieving, but financially they were a little bit more stable, or a lot more stable than probably anybody in Prince's family. Not to say that they didn't have jobs or anything like that, but it's a difference going to your job from day to day, or the possibility of living from paycheck to paycheck every day, to now you're making $1 million decisions. And because there's no will to, to offset the tax debt and things like that, you're making these $1 million decisions, but you're still faced with going to your 9 to 5 every day, and you're probably living off of some advances, but the rewards aren't as substantial as what they would be if it was like, okay, well, here's a will, this goes here, that goes there, okay, then this takes care of the inheritance tax, wiped out in one shot, and every day from this point forward we're just cashing checks at this point. So those are things, like I said, we don't have to make those type of decisions. So it's easy to sit there and go, well, why don't you? But again, my opinion would be just, if they can wipe the slate clean, and like I said, if all of them can unanimously, it's kind of like what I've always admired about the Beatles, when all four of them were together, even through kind of like the breakup, and even as they settled a lot of those lawsuits. As far as right now, any new Beatles product, all four have to unanimously agree. They have to unanimously agree on it, or you don't see it. So with these deluxe editions, the Sgt. Pepper White Album, Abbey Road anniversary editions, the big Let It Be reissue of the film, Peter Jackson's new recutting, that footage into a new documentary, and probably the re-release of Let It Be and all the bonus stuff. Let It Be is just now coming out because basically In George Harrison's lifetime, he was the main one vetoing that to be released. Where in everything else, Yellow Submarine was reissued on DVD. Hard Day's Night, Help, reissued on DVD, and now all of them are reissued on Blu-ray. But even after George Harrison's passing, it was a thing of Let It Be was not going to be reissued as a film or put on DVD or anything. But just only recently, I guess they figured out a way to say, well, okay, let's get Peter Jackson to, put together a brand new documentary. Because Let It Be, it was cool for its time. But the thing, as far as the four Beatles were concerned, it just looks depressing. And it is a tough watch, but it is depressing, and everything's made to show just Paul being the good guy. And, it literally showed how a band breaks up. It was a band breaking up on film. And basically, yeah, there were a lot of business upheavals, and yes, they were growing up and growing apart and all of that. And, history is what it is. The rest is history. But when you look back, it really wasn't that bad as far as them getting together in a room and making music. And that's what that film should have been celebrating. And it kind of did. The rooftop part was great. But you'll now see that hopefully when this comes out, that you see there wasn't that many fights during the filming of that, or as many, and that they were always laughing and joking. And at the end of the day, as Ringo put it, when they're excited, the track's exciting. So you have that. So that being said, maybe kind of taking a page out of that playbook for a little bit and just saying, we're going to decide, okay, if we're going to release this, then in addition to Sony putting out the record and manufacturing it, distributing it, and handling the promotion, then if we want to explore other forms of multimedia or IP branding or whatever, then let's all decide to enlist this company, and we hire this company to facilitate that. And two, like I said, I get that, like I said, it's kind of tough. You sitting there making $1 million decisions, but you still have to go to your 9-to-5 job every day. And, you make whatever move you can make because it's like, yeah, these bills are piling up. Or maybe I've had to quit my job to make those $1 million decisions. And I'm making $1 million decisions, but those checks aren't coming in fast enough. So maybe they had to make the deals that they had to, or they felt that they had to have made, much to the chagrin of other members of the family. But, I hope it works out. It balances itself out. I know pretty much in regards to the Tyka Nelson situation, the courts, I don't know. I don't keep up with that. Like I said, it's too heavy. But the last thing I read, it seems like the courts will probably veto that move anyway. So if it hasn't happened already. In regards to the Alfred Jackson situation, allegedly, there was some deal that was already made. And according to them, it was made, the cliche of, he probably wasn't in his right mind when he signed those papers. Again, we don't know. But like I said, hopefully at the end of the day that I hope it works out and that it doesn't impede the flow of great releases. And that's kind of a divisive thing, as far as the Prince musical singularity. Sometimes it's not always a singularity, folks. It can be, pretty divided on some things. There's people that hold on tight and true to their bootlegs, and Some of you cats out there might be really good at manipulating, whether it's Pro Tools or Audacity or Cakewalk or whatever it is you use, and you could take a little nothing bootleg and make it sound better than anything that Giles Martin has done with the last 3 Beatles reissues so far. And that's good for you. Good. So, but there's people that hold on tight to him. And then there's people that's like, oh, well, he never would have done this in his lifetime. Or, all of it's pretty much irrelevant now. Me personally, again, I am of the mindset that, I was commenting on social media today that bootlegging, or I call it just collectors community at this point. Whether it's file sharing or whatever, it's a weird duality. It's kind of a fandom's duality. Because, there's a lot of us, we have bootlegs in one way, shape, or form, whether we got them free, whether we've traded them, whether we've gone into a record store and, paid a halfway decent amount of money. And then there's people that are getting ridiculously ripped off. And that's kind of where I kind of draw that line a little bit. It's like, cool, if you got it, let's trade or whatever, or send me a file, I'll send you a file, whatever. But, when you're charging, I've seen copies, and this is an official copy, it's just out of print. I've seen where the gold experience, or I've seen things out of print like Madhouse, 8 and 16, it's a CD and people want $300-$400 for it or something like that, some ridiculous amount. So I'm just of that mindset of let's just have, the estate do what it does and unanimously agree. And hopefully these things won't get impeded so that, like I said, after 2021, they can really hit the ground running. And I don't know who, as far as I know, I think Prince, once Warner Brothers shut down Paisley Park Records, that all of those masters, at least those, went to Prince. So who knows? Let's get some good quality reissues and deluxe editions and box sets for, say, 2021, 22, 23. But at some point, let's get that Madhouse out there. Let's get that Family out there. Let's get Maserati out there. Because it's ridiculous, charging $100, $200 for CD. And I mean, there's fans of all backgrounds and economic levels, and it's like, dude, we're not, coming off of $100 on a CD. It's hard to come. Now, if Warner Brothers or Sony is charging you $100 for a CD, there's like 6 or 7 other CDs that's coming with it. And you've got, professional engineers in the mix. Like I said, not knocking you cats out there that's got good engineering skills, but, it's kind of like the whole point of an artist's creation is that artist should be fairly compensated for his or her own work. So, I would rather see that money go to the artist or that artist's family, their estates or whatever, and keep that going, as opposed to, somebody that's, ripping off. Because, granted, you may not care that, because you're getting the $100 or the $200 or whatever. But, and then 9 times out of 10 people are paying those ridiculous amounts and the quality's still crappy, because not all of you are great engineers either. So, so that being said, I just would rather just see, just the estate come out with it officially, and then I'll get it. Sometimes I've been sometimes just play some things in my collection, and yeah, I'm kind of that mindset, like, yeah, this isn't the greatest quality, but it's the only copy I have, and I enjoy it on that level. But at the same time, I'm like hoping that we get an official release, because like the Purple Music, I've had a crappy copy of that one for years, and just to hear it officially, the little subtle nuances and the instrumentation, and it's mixed pretty well, and it's like, yeah, that's what we've all been looking forward to. So again, like I said, it was a subject that I really didn't want to touch, but yeah, it's nice to kind of get it out there. And I just couldn't ignore it this week, because like I said, when it's one situation, that's one thing, but now it's 2 family members out of 6, and that kind of made me raise an eyebrow, so I thought I'd address it. And what's most important, what do you guys think? Have you heard about this news? Do you think it will affect future releases if it gets any more complicated? Do you think that the bickering will, if there is any bickering, but if it goes into a situation like, say, Tom Petty's family did, or Frank Zappa's family, to where that interrupts the release of maybe some of your favorite albums getting a deluxe treatment or a reissue? Leave me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And that's going to end topic number 2. And then we're going to move on to our Purple Spotlight. And our Purple Spotlight is a segment that highlights a Prince album, film, or video, or an associated artist. And today's Purple Spotlight is on Apollonia. All right, so Patricia Cotero, also known as Apollonia, came in to replace Vanity during the filming of Purple Rain. Originally, Vanity was supposed to star in that, for our Purple listeners that don't know the history. But due to money concerns, Vanity decided to leave the Purple Rain project, and so a replacement actress had to be found, and there was a big, huge casting call. And while everyone was showing up as these Vanity clones and bringing their best Victoria's Secret and Fredericks of Hollywood, Patricia Cotero shows up in a tracksuit, impresses Prince's manager, and the rest is history. And so we now have the official Apollonia cast in the movie of Purple Rain. Of course, there was, in replacing Vanity, a Apollonia 6 album instead of a Vanity 6 album was released with the hit song Sex Shooter, which was seen, heard, and performed in the film by Apollonia 6. But after that, Apollonia released a solo album of her own. Let me check to see if she recorded 2. But she also had some bit parts in, I believe, a couple of other films. Most notably, she was on for about a season of the television show Falcon Crest. It was a CBS show that was on during the early to mid 80s. It came on after Dallas, I believe, on that. But let's see. Okay, so no, there was just the Apollonia 6 album, that of course was released in 1984. And of course, she's also known for duetting with Prince on Take Me With You, which is on the actual Purple Rain album. But she did have a solo album in 1988, which is not in print. But if you kind of dig deep into the crates of whatever, maybe your local record store or anybody that deals in vinyl, I'm sure you're probably able to find a copy. But let's see, she did release 3 singles from her solo album, Since I Fell For You, The Same Dream, and Mismatch. Let's see, she also appeared in the films Ministry of Vengeance in 1989, Back to Back in 1990, Black Magic Woman in 1991. She's also starred in some Italian films. She's also appeared on episodes of Sliders and Air America. Okay. So as for what she's doing now, so in 2005, she formed a multimedia entertainment company called Katero Entertainment, and they enlist producers to produce children's animated TV series as well as films. And they also, there's a management company. So she's still out making moves here in the music industry, in the entertainment industry. Also, too, I mean, she's very active on social media. You can check her out on Instagram, mostly. And I'm not sure of her other social media accounts, but definitely Instagram for sure. But definitely, continue to check her out. I don't know if she's not doing any films currently, but let's see. I guess her company manages film stars such as Sasha Andreas and a pop singer named Nikki Barreras, also known as Nikki B. So I guess check those artists out, support their films, their TV shows, support their records. It's helped make Katero Entertainment a big success, an ongoing success. And she is our Purple Spotlight for this week. So what's up to Apollonia? And just keep doing what you do. And we're going to end this topic and move on to our Bite the Boot segment. And our Bite the Boot segment is a segment that highlights a circulating bootleg or vault recording or video for consideration for an official release by the estate. And today's Bite the Boot selection is The Flesh. Okay, so around 1985, 86, in fact, let me get the correct information here, because that's what we strive for on Amari Purple Talk, is historical accuracy. All right, and so The Flesh, of course, it's an unreleased album. The Flesh was kind of made up of Prince, Eric Leeds. You also had Sheila E. You had Wendy and Lisa on the sessions. You had Levi Seisher on bass. And you also had Jonathan Melvoin on the percussion. And they recorded about maybe 4 songs. Or, let's see, actually 4 songs ended up making up the album. I guess you can actually call it an EP, really. But those songs are titled Junk Music and Table Still Moving by Itself, but that's all right. That's probably because one of these chords, if I move a leg. Yep, that's it. No ghosts, folks. All right, so you've got Junk Music, Up From Below, Y'all Want Some More, and A Couple of Miles. Let's see, and these were recorded, A Couple of Miles was recorded on December 26th of 1985. Everything else was recorded around January of 1986. Let's see, a portion of Junk Music. That was actually, if you look at the movie Under the Cherry Moon, during the race car scene with Prince and Mary Sharon, that music is from this session as well. And this is kind of one of the, I guess, I don't know, maybe top 5, 6, 7 most in demand releases, or I should say unreleased tracks from the Prince Vault that fans want to see the light of day officially at some point. Now, it would be interesting because of the timeline. These songs actually end up on a Parade Super Deluxe Edition. That would be, I think part of the, I don't want to call it apprehension. I mean, again, my speculation with Sign of the Times Deluxe Edition, as far as Warner Brothers putting it out, it's a last chance cash grab, because this is the last time they'll be able to hold on to that portion of Prince's catalog. But, a Under the Cherry Moon Parade Super Deluxe Edition would probably be, I would say, out of anything in Prince's Warner Brothers catalog, it would be the most, and I'm hoping I'm using this word in the correct way, it would be the most eclectic release. Because, the music itself, it's different. Parade is probably one of my favorite, it's probably my top 5 favorite Prince classic period albums. But because it's not the same, it's kind of apples and oranges, but there are slight similarities, maybe not so much in sound, but I mean, just starting with the look, because Parade has a black and white cover. The Beatles' Revolver has a black and white cover. And, Revolver is kind of an eclectic album. It's the precursor to Sgt. Pepper. Revolver is actually more of my favorite. But, Prince kind of dives into sort of that Beatles psychedelic period carryover from Around the World in a Day, but executes it a lot better, in my opinion, with Parade. But when you listen to like a lot of the unreleased material, from things like Old Friends for Sale, maybe, I guess, his version of probably Mia Boca, there's others, Here With Us, this would probably, next to, it would be in comparison to things like, the Rainbow Children. Even though Rainbow Children, it's a more mature piece of work, but things he was doing around that time, like Expectation and News, where he's really, like I said, not only challenging himself, but challenging our expectations. I think even to this day, a Parade Super Deluxe, if it included these songs from it, A Couple of Miles, Y'all Want Some More, Up From Below, Junk Music, what's the other one? And That Says What, from that period, or, any of the outtakes from that, just from those Under the Cherry Moon sessions or Parade sessions, that, would be a testament, and especially for newbies, it's like, okay, yep, this is Purple Rain, yep, that was legendary. Yep, this is 1999, and then, go back further, Dirty Mind, Controversy, that was funky, that kind of rock that had some new wave. But check this out. That would kind of take people so far left field, so my guess is that if you don't release it as a standalone EP, definitely I'm going to go probably maybe, I don't know, let me come up with a little, on a scale of 1 to 7 doves, folks. So on a scale of 1 to 7 doves, I'm going to go about 6 and say that these songs from the Flesh will end up on a Parade Super Deluxe and not as a standalone release. Now there's sort of bootleg collections that kind of pair this with either, say, the Dream Factory, or they pair it with a sort of 1986 Crystal Ball track listing before it was whittled down to Sign of the Times. So there's sort of collectors that kind of pair these sessions up with either one of those two, pretty much. So, but my guess is that these songs are going to end up on a Parade Super Deluxe. But what's most important is, what do you guys think? Do you think that the estate should release this as a standalone EP? Now, getting back to Record Store Day, I think stuff like this works better. And I think the estate should continue to do so. Just like they did last year with the release of, His Majesty's Pop Life, or the Versace Experience as a cassette only, which that should have been the cassette and CD release on that day. But I think that these kind of projects would work better as exclusive Record Store Day releases than, just reissuing an album and just possibly changing the color of the vinyl on it, really. I mean, when it comes to Prince, I think, you see there's stuff I've seen just looking at the Record Store Day list with Bowie. There's a couple of things on Miles Davis, some unreleased stuff, that's being released on Record Store Day. And it's like, I think every Record Store Day, there should be some special vault release, and I think items like this would be absolutely perfect because, it's not as I can't say in demand, but I feel like it's left field enough to say this is Prince, and it's something you don't have the pressure of just trying to just dump onto the mainstream. You put it out on Record Store Day, or if they ever bring back an MPG Music Club, or, in other words, this is just something for the fans and the fans only to go run out on Record Store Day and try to snatch that up. And of course, a week after Record Store Day or so, or 2 weeks, depending on the record store, they'll have copies for sale, or there should be additional copies available after the initial run of copies on Record Store Day sell out or whatever, and just have it available for the fans, and you meet that demand, and then you just move on to the big, super deluxe release or box set release, just in time for Christmas. But again, what do you guys think? Do you prefer it as a single standalone release, whether Record Store Day or in your record store period? Or do you think these tracks will end up on a Parade Super Deluxe edition? In fact, tonight, or actually you'll hear this tomorrow. I'm taping tonight, so by the time you hear this, I'm going to put up a poll which will have that question: should the tracks from The Flesh end up on a Super Parade Super Deluxe, or would you prefer it as a standalone exclusive release, whether it's Record Store Day or just in your record store period? So, but again, leave me your comments. Let me know your thoughts. And then that's going to end this episode of Amari Purple Talk. And I was hoping to get to the Amari Funk Soloist Hour. I don't mean to keep you guys strung along, but that show is coming. It is coming. Got a little late for me today, so I didn't get a chance to record. I was going to record this show, then record that one, and have that drop Wednesday. But bear with me. The Amari Funk Soloist Hour is coming. Meanwhile, check out my blog. It's called What's in the Crate, and it's on WordPress. And check it out. I've only got 2 articles up this week. I should have another one, hopefully 2 more. And it's just about vinyl that's in my collection, and just either, my impressions of it or my special memories hearing it for the first time, or how much that particular album meant to me in my lifetime. Haven't gotten around to any prints yet. Let's see, but Shaka Khan's Rufusized will be the 4th article coming. And again, if you guys read The Beautiful Ones, you know what's up with this album, folks, and why you should have it in your collection as well. But be sure to check that out. Again, it's called What's in the Crate. It's on WordPress.com. Written by me. Check it out. And also, too, there's also Amari Purple Talk gear. There's t-shirts, coffee mugs, and there's also other Amari merchandise, such as the We Funk t-shirts. So, hey, to the last beat, to the last bass, to the last band, We Funk. Check it out. Oh, and one last thing, I keep forgetting to do this. My apologies to Rain over at listentoprince.com, his blog that covers every single Prince and Prince Associated Act release. That's on Paisley Park. It's a great blog. You guys should check it out. I kind of bit his artwork for one of the in-show graphics for the Purple Spotlight on Madhouse. If you've seen that circulating around, that artwork is actually his, and meant to give him credit, and forgot to do so last episode, so I'm correcting that now. So by all means, definitely, like I said, check out his blog, and that covers every Prince release and Prince Associated Act. Great research, great writing, great opinions on the tracks, and overall impressions of the albums. So again, check it out. It's called Listen to Prince. So look it up, check it out. And then now we're going to end this episode. And as always, let's try to leave this planet a little bit better than how we found it. And as always, keep it purple and on the one.